you guys get any of the answers to the questions?
I did.
All of the
I actually
above.
had to watch it twice to get them all.
All the above. I missed a couple.
You missed a couple? Okay. The first one, an essential aspect of God's glory is his freedom to do all that he pleases. What is an essential difference between God and us?
We live a constant life of need. God never needs anyone or anything.
Right? God is self-sufficient. God is never constrained outside of himself.
Well, what I wrote down was worry.
Mm.
We go around our whole lives worrying.
You do?
Absolutely.
That's all we do.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Absolutely.
I worry about,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I worry about the job,
Mm.
I worry about my kids,
Yep.
I worry about my house, I worry about my car.
The dog.
God does not worry. That's all we do. That is all, and some of us are a little bit more honest about that than others.
Oh.
Zing.
That's true.
Come on, brothers, come on,
That's
sisters.
true. It's true.
It is totally true.
Absolutely.
We get up in the morning and it's just one. Now, I'm not saying that these worries consume you.
I call it
Oh my
something
gosh,
else.
I'm debilitated.
Concerns.
There's times that they
You
do.
want to call them concerns, you call them whatever you want. But when he started talking about the sovereignty of God and that knife in that surgeon's hand, it rang true for me. I worry too much.
Sure.
I do not rely on the sovereignty of God. I'm worried about the right doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm worried about what did he do? Where does he go to school? All this. Look, God is in control of your life. Romans 8:38.
You're too young. That's your
I'm sorry,
problem.
Romans 8:28. Oh, wait a minute. It really made sense to me after he went through that. All things. Do I need to worry? Probably a little bit. But that's how we're different than God. That he never, oh my gosh, look what they're doing. Oh, they're going to do, no, he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
If you've never studied and really got into the sovereignty of God, besides God saving me, the most life-changing event that ever happened in my life was wrapping my mind around the sovereignty of God. The
Amen.
worry and the anxiety that was gone. Every now and then I still slip into it. It's a very rare thing. Some people will even call me indifferent on many things.
Yeah.
But it is just my reliance in that sovereignty of God. I mean, now, when that light bulb went off, it was amazing the weight that was lifted from your shoulder.
Sure.
I do not worry. I do not have anxiety. I said, not to mention sometimes things don't immediately jump in and get me, but it's quickly handled in that respect. So, yeah, in making those choices, what about this? What about that? What about, God is sovereign. I will make responsible decisions because I'm called to make some decisions regarding some things. But I don't worry about the outcome of
Yeah.
I do not.
Isn't that a relief?
Like I said, that was earth-shatteringly changing my life. Second only in line with, salvation.
Yeah.
And like, how long ago did that happen for you? Can you think back then? Is it like a specific time of your
No,
life?
it was about 12 years ago. Yeah, because and when that came up, whether it was sermon, study, whatever, reading books that I read, and then I got into it. I mean, then I couldn't, I couldn't get enough of it, and just went in depth with that. But I mean, and also too, it's God's enlightenment. Just that, my mind being able to just understand it and know it being there. I mean, a lot of, faith, God giving me that. It's like, wow.
Kind of like what he was saying in his speech there, his talk right there about how some of us are on the forefront of that, and some of us are resting on the backside of that, resting in the knowledge and knowing that he is.
And what makes the difference? That's really the ultimate
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
That is the ultimate question. What makes the difference?
One of the things that was a wonderful thing to grasp that,
Yeah.
and years ago, to study that and understand the sovereignty of God, and that's not where my struggle is with God. I absolutely believe in the sovereignty of God. My struggle comes, my sinful struggle comes when you're in the midst of what we consider very bad things, I began to doubt his goodness. That's where the struggle comes. The sovereignty of God, I absolutely, fully believe it.
Yeah.
And everything, my personal struggle, may not be with everybody else, but my personal struggle is in the midst of those times, is to doubt his goodness.
How is this good for me?
Right, and
How is it
isn't
good
that
for me,
really the
right? Yeah,
definition of
exactly.
worry? That is the definition of worry, when we doubt God's total perfect plan for our lives and his total sovereignty over our lives. That's when we start worrying.
That's where we struggle. Absolutely. What about the next question? What is glorious about God, specifically from Romans 11:33 through 36? Yeah, there was two things. What is glorious about God, specifically from Romans? First one was nobody has given God counsel. Nobody has given God counsel. And two is basically he is self-sufficient. He delights in all he does.
And that, is that where it said that he said that he was completely content and satisfied with his Trinitarian fellowship?
Yes, yes.
I wrote down that men want a God they can figure out. They
Yeah.
hate this. They hate this passage because they can't override the sovereign hand of God. Men want to figure God out.
Yeah.
I do this, I get this.
Right.
That's works. I do these good things, okay, God, you're not obligated
Yeah.
to do these good things for me because I've done these things. Men hate a sovereign God. They want to figure him out. And they can't.
And why
None
can't
of us
they? Why
can.
can't they? Because what Randy said earlier.
Our natures
Our
are,
nature.
yeah, it's different.
Yeah. Very much so. Good. What passages of Scripture show that God's invisible hand is behind all that comes to pass? And he went through a ton of Scripture. I mean, all those Scriptures that he went through. I mean, Psalm 135:5, 115:1, Isaiah 46:9, Ephesians 1:11, Daniel 4:35, Amos 3:6, Proverbs 16:9, 19:21, and 16:33. Those are the ones that I got. I don't know if you guys got all those. Okay. And this last one's a little tricky. Okay. According to Piper, we should feel massively confident, and this is the tricky part, that and he didn't say this, but it's in the front, but what he said is that a good, righteous, holy, loving God runs the world, is what he said.
Okay.
But the all-sufficient part, if you look back to the very front page, page 50, the last lesson objective
Okay.
says you will find great confidence and security knowing that an all-sufficient God runs the world. But he said a good, righteous, holy, loving God runs the world.
Then,
Thank God. I mean, it's
That's why I think that when and he is doing that throughout this whole book, it's great. That's why when we study the sovereignty of God,
yeah,
we ought to study along with it the goodness of God.
yes,
And even the pagans knew
yeah,
to bring that up. For instance, Hume, the atheist, brought up the idea that God can't be both sovereign and good. They even knew to put those two together when he was postulating the idea that either God is not sovereign or he is not good, but he can't be both. And of course, we know that you can a fourth thing there, but God has a good reason for the evil that he permits.
yeah,
Then there's no logical problem with that. But he even knew to put those two together, because if you accept the sovereignty of God and you're in the midst of a very bad trial, if you cling to the sovereignty of God, you're going to have trouble with the goodness of God. Or if you cling to the goodness of God, you'll struggle with the sovereignty of God. And those two, you've got to understand those two
yeah.
together.
True. Very true. Yeah. A lot of good material, but our time is already gone. So maybe if you have any other questions about this, maybe Daniel might be able to have a little bit of time next week to answer any questions.